Welcome to Writing Black Joy Season 3. I'm Sophia Robinson, and I'm a story listener, a writing coach, an editor, as well as the producer of Writing Black Joy, a virtual space that celebrates, centers, and promotes the voices of Black writers and storytellers with joyful and uplifting stories. Here, you'll find conversations with some of my favorite Black writers and storytellers, learn more about their projects and the joy they're bringing into the world, hear more about their creative processes, and find inspiration for your own creative ventures, as well as tips and strategies for writing poetry, blogs, creative nonfiction, fiction, plays, and so much more from all types of writers, as well as a sneak peek into the writing life. You could even find your next favorite writer, book, poem, play, or blog. And if you're a Black writer who is looking for a coach or an editor to help you bring your joyful story into the world, then click on my website below to find out how to work with me. In the meantime, let's go to today's guest. We are back, and today I have with me one of my dream podcast guests, Greg Edwards. I first discovered Greg on Thug Notes, which is one of my favorite series of short videos where he did breakdowns of classic literature and other well-known books into what I found to be really digestible language and concepts. I had this dream back then to invite him to our book club, which never materialized, sadly. However, when I was imagining this season, I actually made a list of my dream podcast guests, and he was right up there. Anyway, one night I had this dream about Oprah and I was telling her about my podcast. And honestly, this is a true story. I woke up the next morning, I was chatting to a friend about it, and she convinced me to Google search my dream guest and see if I could actually get them to say yes to coming on the podcast. Greg answered my email almost immediately, and honestly, I was stunned. It was amazing to get that yes from him. And I'm going to be shouting out some of my other dream guests on social media, by the way. So if any of you are listening or if you know any of them, please let me know. I would love to continue this trend. So back to Greg. He's a fantastic guest. I so enjoyed our conversation. Here's a little bit more about him. So Greg Edwards is a fearless comedian from Virginia who moved to San Francisco in 2001 and became a fixture in the Bay Area comedy scene. He's known for his distinctive voice, awkward views, and social commentary. He's performed at Jamie Foxx's Laffapollozza, SF SketchFest, SF Burrito and Comedy Fest, Riot LA, and clubs and colleges all over California. Greg was awarded the prestigious Dan Crawford Award from the San Francisco Punchline in 2009, and he moved to Los Angeles in 2010. Greg has performed at Laugh Factory, the Comedy Store, the Hollywood Improv, the IceHouse, and all the popular independent shows in LA. He's worked with Dave Chappelle, Paul Mooney, Patrice O'Neill, Damon Wayans, Bill Burr, and Charlie Murphy, and so many other comedians that I'm not going to name, but you will find them listed in the show notes. Most recently, Greg stars as Sparky Sweet's PhD of the critically acclaimed web series Thug Notes. He's been in Entertainment Weekly, Forbes, the International New York Times, and he's also been on BET, Comedy Central, and he was interviewed on the Tavis Smiley show on PBS. And lastly, well, not lastly, because he is not done, but most recently, he's released 3 independent comedy albums, including Gregarious and Dopamine. Greg and I had an amazing conversation as we discussed the importance of relationships, the space that writing creates, how conversations can boost your creativity, the evolution of the creative process, especially when you're performing in front of a live audience, what we gain and lose with time and age, getting inspiration for your creative projects, and so much more. I even got to give Greg some encouragement on his current creative project that you might find useful if you are working on anything. And there was a shout out to the inimitable Sheena Rose, who is a wonderful artist from Barbados, who also on my dream guest list. So let's see if we can get Sheena on here. And honestly, it was just a great conversation that I hope you enjoy as much as I did. Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me, Greg. It's great to have you. You don't know this, but this is my 3rd season, and I made a list of my dream podcast guests, and you were one of them.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so nice.
Yes, you are. You're on one of my dream podcast guest lists. So I'm really happy to have you here. And to those of you who don't know who Greg is, as I said in the intro, he's a stand-up comedian, he's an actor, writer, and artist. And I'm so happy to have you joining us here. So to those of you who don't know Greg, tell us a bit about yourself. I know you said you're located in Los Angeles, but tell us a bit about yourself, what you do as a
Okay.
comedian, as a writer. Yeah, tell us a bit about you.
Yeah. I'm a comedian. I've been a comic since probably 2001. So I'm an older comedian now. I used to be a young comic, but not anymore. I'm a writer. I'm an actor. I'm an artist. I live in LA. I'm originally from a small town in Virginia, Southern Virginia, called Hampton, Virginia, but also Newport News, Virginia. They're like neighboring cities, so I kind of claim
Hmm.
both because I grew up in both of them. But yeah, I just been in this entertainment game for a while, and still getting my footing in it. I guess the footing never feels solid, and that's a part of the game, and constantly adjusting and having a good time, and I'm doing all right now. But always trying to create new projects to just keep the game going.
Sounds good to me. Tell me what is the balance? Like, do you do more acting? Do you do more comedy? Do you do more writing? Like, what's the balance there?
Well, these days it's actually just mostly writing. Before the pandemic, I was doing stand up and writing. And since we started coming back out more, I've been doing a little more comedy. But I mean, I used to be out there every night, but now it's mostly like maybe once or twice a week. But I'm writing right now. I got a writing job. I'm writing on a show, Ridiculousness, on MTV, which takes up most of my time. Um, but yeah, I do a little acting here and there. Every once in a while, people hit me up to do some stuff, and I'm trying to produce more of my own things, and shoot
Mm.
more of my own stuff, and writing projects, and doing some animation, and just keep
Hmm.
doing stuff. I feel like that's the name of the game within the entertainment field, is to just keep creating.
Yeah, I guess you have to be adaptive. I think about that with like just having sort of now emerging out of COVID, and you talked about doing stand up before that, and then obviously when the pandemic hit, it's like you don't have that particular outlet, so you kind of also have to be adaptive.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you've been around since 2001, I know you must have changed,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
iterations over the years as well.
Yeah, I think I'm on
So
my third version of Greg Edwards, to talk in the third person. But yeah, I'm on my third version of me. Yeah, and I
I
like it.
That's really, really good. So, you know that the podcast is called Writing Black Joy, and it's about Black content creators, storytellers. It started out as writers because I'm a writer, but it's kind of morphed into people who are creating different types of content, but positive, like uplifting, joyful content. Why is that important to you? Why is it important to you? I know it is, or you wouldn't have agreed to be on the show. So, why
Oh
is it
yeah,
important to you?
I mean it's definitely important to me. I just think us as black people, and black people throughout the diaspora, talking African, Caribbean, uh, Mexican, talking all of us. We've been through so much, and a lot of our stories aren't told by us. And I think with social media, I'm starting to see that narrative change a little bit, and people taking advantage of the cell phone and the camera, and starting to tell our stories more. So I think it's important to get our point of view on things, and not have our stories always be so negative, not have the sad black story, because
Mm,
that seems to be the case mostly. Like I don't watch slave movies anymore. Any slave
I
movie
can't.
that comes out, I'm just like, I'm done. We've done that narrative too
Mm-mm.
much. I'm
Agree.
sorry if you put your money into a movie and you are a black creator, but I think now it's like it's bad for us. You know what I mean? I
Mm,
think it was probably bad for us before, but we were just so happy to have people in something
yeah.
that we just supported it. So I think it's so many. I really enjoyed Atlanta. I feel like that's a beautiful story that was
Yeah.
fun and also didn't just base in tragedy. I just don't need to see black people in tragedy all the time. I need to see some
Mm.
regular. Can we have some regular
Yeah,
stories? Just
doing
people
some
doing.
regular stuff.
Yeah, so I try to
And
bring that to my comedy. I try to bring that to the stuff I write. I try to bring that to the stuff I tweet, and yeah, basically.
mm, yeah, and I love that. And I think in season one, I spoke to a novelist, and she was saying, she thinks a part of the problem too was there was a time when those were the only types of stories that were being made, and so
Yeah,
people almost felt like they had to make those stories to be in the game. But I
exactly.
definitely think social media, TikTok, Twitter, like those platforms, you have a bit less gatekeeping, and I think people have then felt free to make whatever they wanted to make, and I like that a lot. So I asked you to bring a quote. I'd love to know a quote that you like and what you like about it.
Okay, this is a quote that I don't know where I got this from, or I don't think it's mine, but I've been saying this quote for a long time, and some people say it to me, and they're like, "Oh, I got this from you," and I'm like, "Man, where did I get this from?" All right, lazy people work harder. That's my
Hmm.
quote. That's my. It's almost like one of my things too. Almost like if it's like 6, I like to get out of bed at like 6:30, right? 6:30 a.m. to get my day going. And if it's like 6:45, I start thinking to myself, lazy people work harder, man. Get up, get it going. It just reminds me that, don't take shortcuts. Just, you continue to work hard. Us as black people, we have to work hard already. So
Mm.
just continue to work hard. And it feels good to accomplish something and not taking shortcuts and not being lazy. And sometimes I fight that. My wife is reading a book right now called called Rest is Resistance. I forget
Hmm.
the name of the author, but it's just talking about how we live in this culture of go go go, and sometimes just resting and saying no is resistance in its own self. We can just be. And I hear that, but I'm also a person that's like, man, I gotta get it. I gotta get this money. I gotta
Mm.
get these projects done because
Things
nobody
to
else is
do.
going to do it if I don't do it. So lazy
Yeah.
people work harder. That's my thing.
Yeah, I find that interesting. And the thing about it is, like, I think sometimes, I mean, it's different for you because obviously this is your line of work now. But for me, a lot of the creative things I do are not my work. I have a day job,
Yeah.
and so sometimes there are people who say to me, "Okay, Saf, take it easy, you can rest." But I'm like, nobody's pressuring me to make this podcast. Nobody's pressuring me to write a blog post or whatever. And if I just take, yeah, I can take the rest, and I do sometimes, but it's almost like, especially if your job isn't a creative one and you want to
Mm-hmm.
be able to create stuff, you gotta find the time somewhere. I always call it the corners of my days, like, early in the morning or late at night or whatever, like doing stuff, editing podcasts, whatever, because no one's you know no one's gonna almost care if I don't do it, but I
Nope.
know that I got stuff that I want to get done. I got stuff
Yeah,
I want to create and put out into the world, and so it's like, I just I've got to push myself. Nobody's gonna push me to do it.
that's
So,
true.
I'm there from that perspective. Now I'm curious because, as I told you in the email I sent you, I discovered you doing performing something that I really enjoyed, and I know that that was something you were doing as an actor. So I wonder, how do you decide what projects to take on and what projects not to take on? Do you have any? Are
Mm.
you able to be sort of really choosy, or has that changed? Because you talked about being on your third iteration. Has that changed as time has gone on?
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, the older you get and the more you're in the business, um, and having money and not having money as well. I'm gonna be honest about it. Uh, yeah, that goes into choosing projects. When I was younger, I remember when I first got to LA, and I was just so hungry and just so wanted to get in, and how hard it was. I mean, it was just hard to like break in on the like independent comedy scene, for people. Because if they don't know you, you're just like some dude from San Francisco that I heard was funny, but I don't know you. So it's a lot of trust getting into different scenes in LA. And, I was just so hungry that I was just almost not willing to do anything, but, I took stuff that I probably wouldn't take now, or maybe would ask them to change stuff a little bit now, or just maybe wouldn't be a part of it. I have my ways of saying stuff. It's like, I lie and just say, "Oh, I'm busy. I got stuff going on." It's okay to lie, people, because
Listen,
you don't want to hurt feelings. You don't want to burn bridges too. But
yeah,
sometimes a project isn't where you're at right now, and yeah. So I do that more these days. But yeah, when I first got out here, I was kind of taking whatever I could take to, pay the, not just because I was working a day job that I hated, but I just wanted to get out and get my stuff out there. So yeah, I'm definitely
yeah.
more, definitely more choosy about the stuff I take now. Yeah.
I like that. And what kind of obstacle do you think you came up against, aside from just being new and being new, just not new to the game, but like new to the area, and people not knowing you and having to build up that trust? Was there anything else you feel like made it difficult?
I think it was just the same stuff of money, finances, because you're supporting yourself. And at the time, I was with my girlfriend, who's my wife now. You just you don't want to be broke.
No.
Nobody wants to be broke. So it's just figuring out a job that you can do and also pursue your artistic endeavors. So I mean, that's always a hard thing to do, and knowing the line of when, okay, I gotta be at work at this time, but this audition is this time. Do I call in sick, or do I tell my boss like I have an audition, and he might let it fly this time, but he's going to keep it in the back of his mind. So when he can hire somebody. It's just so many things.
Yeah, it's a lot to juggle.
It is, and I mean that's always a case. Breaking into the industry, being somebody new, and somebody new to the comedy scene, black, just being a black dude. It's a lot of us already, but feeling that you're not going against other black guys, you're really yourself, and just it's a lot of just growth and feeling um, insecure. Like, should I be doing this anyway? Should I be wasting? Is this wasting time? Just so many different things to juggle within your mind that will stop you from pursuing your goals. But yeah, it's you just got to do it, and you got to keep that day job, and you got to talk to your girlfriend and make sure you guys are right. Have time for that to keep that relationship growing, and just keep pushing, and hopefully something will pop up, and be nice to people too. I think that's one of my
Yes.
things. Is I knew I'm a nice person already, and but I knew going in that the people that I work with and my circle are going to be the people that I get jobs from. So I try to be nice to everybody. Not, I mean, it's the right thing to do, but also you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Do you find, I always, as somebody who's obviously never lived in that industry in LA, I always, there's in the back of my mind, I always wonder, like, is it really cutthroat? Like, you talk about, I like that. I like that one of the things you took away from it is be nice to people, because I always think to myself, like, I wonder if the industry must be really encourage people to like be very like nice to your face, but like I don't know how else
Oh,
to describe it. But
yeah,
I'm
I
just
mean,
is there a lot of that
being
as well? Do you find or
people being fake.
fake? Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
word.
I mean, I think yes, there is a lot of. I mean, I do think there's levels of fakeness. Um, I think people want to get on. People really want to get in the industry where they make a lot of money. Uh, People treat them like they're gods. Of course, you'll do anything or be anybody to get in this industry. But I do
Mm.
think in the long run, people see who you are, and it affects you in the long run. You know, like I have friends. I mean, I guess I shouldn't call them friends, but I have associates in comedy that were mean in the beginning and realize now that they shouldn't have been
Mm.
so pushy or standoffish. Not standoffish, just mean.
Yeah.
And
You should
because
have done it differently.
just should have done it differently. And I mean, I always tell people, we're in our 20s doing this too, and like you're 20, you're a kid, you know what I mean? So you don't really know
Tell
who
me.
you are yet, and you don't really know how to act, and people get egos real fast. So it's a lot of growing up. Give people
Mm.
chances, but yeah, I guess I'm country, so you get more things with sugar than you get with salt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Catch more flies. My dad always say, catch more flies by honey than vinegar.
It's
So,
true.
like,
It's true.
good to
So
know.
and people like a smile more than they like a frown, and people want
So
to.
true.
You got to think about, if you're going to work with somebody, you're going to be on set for hours. So who wants to deal with somebody that's shitty and grumpy and got an
So true.
attitude all the time? Don't nobody want to deal with that.
It's so true. So true. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the creative process because I know you said you write, you do comedy, you act, and I'm just curious. Um, what how do you find do you find that you have a different creative process, for argument's sake, for like comedy versus if you're doing a performance versus if you're writing something? Like for me, I'm very comfortable writing. I wouldn't even I've done like super amateur theater stuff, which I'm very I actually get quite nervous in front of people. So
It's
writing
okay.
is my jam. I love
Yeah.
sitting and type when nobody's looking. So what do you find? Do you have like completely different, um, almost like bringing like a different part of yourself to the different types of things that you do?
Yeah. Yeah. I think with stand up, it's like it's both of that. It's writing and performing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like you're at home or you're driving and you think of a joke or you think of a concept of a joke, right? And then you write down your bullet points and then you go to the stage and you try to kind of develop what you wrote down, but it never quite goes 100% like you wrote down. So the performance aspect changes the joke. And I've been doing it for a while that I enjoy the science project of it. But yeah, it is it's two different flows. It's the writing mind and then the performance
Mm-hmm.
mind, and then they come together. But I do enjoy writing. Like I'm writing a lot of scripts right now, and I enjoy just sitting back writing and not having to. With comedy, it's like you're writing jokes, so you want people to laugh, or you want people to feel this feeling immediately. And with
Mm-hmm.
writing, I feel like I can hold it longer. I can hold people's attention. Well, not hold people's attention, but like hold the feeling longer, and I don't have to just fight every couple of seconds for a punchline or for people to laugh. I feel like it's more about trying to get people to imagine these words and what I'm feeling through my words. And I guess it's the same through comedy, just without all the trying to get people to laugh.
Mm.
And yeah,
And I
yeah,
guess like I feel like you have more space with writing. Like I
definitely.
always think about the difference, for argument's sake, between writing a tweet or writing a social media post and writing a blog
Mm-hmm.
post, which I do, and writing a book, which I've done. Like
Mm-hmm.
the longer the thing is, the more space you have, and the more space there is almost for like nuance. Like when you said it's
Yeah.
comedy, it's like jokes, laughter. You kind of know exactly what you're trying to produce, and you have a certain amount of time to do it in. Whereas I think with longer stuff, especially if you're writing for TV or blog posts or whatever, it's like you have. To me, I feel like you almost have a bit more space to capture the nuance and the truth, which is that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can be feeling more than one thing. So yeah, I can see that.
No, that's
I'm curious.
you said it exactly. Yeah, that's it. The space.
Yeah. I am curious because I discovered you obviously through a web production, but I know
Hmm.
you said you've done stand-up comedy as well. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, what does having a live audience do you find bring to your sort of performance versus doing a recording or like a web series or even TV or on TV now? So obviously with TV, I always think to myself like you've almost got the space to like um take it again, right? Let's try this,
Yeah.
let's try
Yep.
that, like versus being live and stand up. Do you find having an audience almost like changes your performance? Do you find it adds to it? Like what do you find? How do you find that
Oh
impacts
yeah.
you?
I mean, I think it's having a live audience. Anything could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, I mean, I've been doing stand up so long that if I want to just do my jokes, I can just do my jokes, and nobody can kind of interfere with that, unless you get somebody who's kind of chatty.
Heckling
I
you.
don't really get hecklers though. I think I'm a bigger guy. Like people don't really like heckle me too much. Not really at all. And when they do talk, they're more just trying to talk or trying to add to it. I guess that's a heckle, but it's never like a strong heckle. I don't get that. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I love that. I just really enjoy the live atmosphere, because where I'm at now is I like talking to people and trying to get other people's perspective when I'm doing a joke. I'll do a joke and it might, the punchline to make people groan like, oh, and I'm like, wow, like why y'all, and I want to tell me why. What you think? And then they tell me why, and I'm like, oh, that's BS. I don't like your like your response to that. And then we go deeper, and then that makes me develop the joke even more. Instead of the joke being 3 minutes, now I got like a 5-7 minute piece that I'm doing because Candace didn't like the when I was doing it at 3 minutes, and we talked longer about it, and she helped me build more out of it. Or
Mm.
it's like you shouldn't be doing that joke, Greg. That joke is just stop doing that joke completely or change it. It's yeah, it's a science project. That's why I love it so much because it's
Mm.
constantly. I guess you can say it's almost like golf or jazz. More, let's say jazz.
Like
You know,
jazz,
it's
yeah.
it constantly changes. Depending on you could do a joke that you've been doing for months and it's been crushing, but if you pause a certain way in it, it
Mm.
won't be the same. If your voice changes, the inflection changes a little bit, it won't be the same, and that can be good and bad sometimes. So
Mm.
yeah, I love the live
Yeah,
audience.
I like that. I always think about that with music. I've got a friend that I went to school with who is a jazz musician, and I sometimes I'm listening to him. I've seen him perform live. I've heard his CDs, and I always feel like, as you said, that timing is everything. Like he can
Yeah,
just hold out a note like just a longer, and it just changes the whole thing. And like I never really thought about that with um, you know, comedy or other sort of live performances. But yeah, I can definitely see how that would be the case. What is like your proudest moment out of all of your, different things that you've done, whether it be comedy, writing, performing? What's your proudest moment?
um, just being able to support myself, and support my family, just through art I think is probably
Mm,
my proudest moment. Yeah, I mean all the stuff I've done a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, just doing this, like I feel lucky and blessed just to be able to do this. My dad was a mailman. My mom was a nurse, and that's what they retired doing. And those are
mm,
jobs. Those are jobs. Physical, dealing with people, and then I deal with people too. But it's on such a these aren't everybody in the entertainment field and they're making money and being able to live off of this should feel absolutely blessed and lucky and
mm.
privileged. I always make, sometimes I have friends that complain about stuff and I'm like, what? Come on, man. You should feel so happy and overjoyed that you get to do this. So I think that's my biggest accomplishment is just being able to survive and also keep my mental health uh, safe doing this too, and just surviving this and being able to provide by doing this.
Okay. Well, that's great. So, would you tell a budding, let's just say creative, because you do so many things. So it doesn't have to be a comic. It could be anyone who's like a budding creative. If you had to, give them a piece of advice or, a cautionary tale, shall we say, what would you tell them?
Okay. Oh, yeah. I would tell them continue to work. Like that's the main thing. Don't forget the work. You have to do the work. If you become famous from anything and you stop working at what you became famous at, you won't be famous long. And also tell them it's not about the fame, it's about the work and it's about the money. You got to make sure your money's
Mm.
tight. Don't buy stupid stuff. Don't buy no cars. Stop buying cars. Stop buying, don't buy anything that's not. I tell people now, if I have a friend that's a young guy or young woman that's coming along, and if they are able to hear me and they're making some money, I always tell them, hey, man, get yourself some property right now. Get yourself a duplex. Get yourself some real estate. So when this
Mm.
Hollywood stuff don't like you right now, you have a
Make a good
place.
investment.
Yeah, please make good investments. I hate to see somebody buying a Tesla. You just got into the game and like you spent $150,000 on the car, and I'm like, dog, come on, bad moves. Take that back immediately. So stuff like that. So you can have longevity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get
Yeah.
sober
Oh.
if you're not sober already. Get yourself sober so you can focus more on your craft. I know you feel like you can do this and you smoke weed or you drink, but if you can do this doing that, think about how much you can do if you're sober from what you're doing.
Mhm.
You can accomplish so much more and you can see much more, just from speaking on my own experience. And just, things like that. Stay out of the pettiness, don't respond to emails angry.
Mhm.
If you're in this corporate, writing game, don't fall into the bait. Don't let people get to you. You got to understand, as being who we are, some people don't like to see us in these positions as well. So you got to just be smart and just understand that you're lucky to have this position and don't take it for granted, and understand some people want your spot and will do
Mhm.
whatever they can to get your spot. So, yeah, just be cautious and think before you react to certain situations.
Yeah. Do you think that has come with, because, I feel like sometimes I always think of people who say, I just did it, but I think of people who say things like, what would you tell your younger self? And I'm always like, look, she would never listen to a 40
Yeah,
something year old woman. She'd be like, what are you telling me? So I wonder sometimes, like, I feel like I'm glad that you have been in the game that long. And also sometimes I feel like some of these things are, understandings that come with maturity,
totally,
it's
totally.
maturity. And I don't know if I always ask people like, what advice would you give a young creative? And I'm just like, oh, gosh, when I was young, I don't think I would have taken any good advice. So
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
it is hard. Yeah.
I mean, when I am giving advice to people, because before I got this job, I used to teach a lot, and one of my last teaching jobs, I worked at a high school, and I would always tell these kids that, hey, man, I would keep it so real with them. I would tell them that once y'all graduate, nobody cares about you. It's tough out there. Your parents
It's hard.
might care about you. They might, not everybody's
Mm.
parents going to care about them. So you really got to figure out what you're trying to do and make it work. Um, and yeah, hopefully they listen.
Yeah. I hope so too.
Yeah.
And cool. So I'm curious then, the other thing is sometimes when I think about like the 20s, because I'm in my 40s now, right? So
Me
when I
too.
think about like the 20 something year old version of me,
hmm
um And I feel like I've gained a lot with maturity. And sometimes I feel like I've lost some things that I miss,
Oh,
like
for sure.
when I think like even for argument's sake, sending out the emails that I sent out to invite people onto the show, I was like, man, when I was a teenager in my 20s, I had no fear. I would have asked anybody, like, yeah, whatever. Whereas now I feel like with maturity, I've also lost a bit of that sort of like almost fearlessness.
Mm-hmm.
Not even sure what my question is. I'm just
No,
curious. Like, do you feel like there's things that you have kind of rounded off? Some of them were good, some of them not so good as time has
definitely,
gone on.
definitely. I feel the fear thing for sure. I guess I definitely was way more fearless as when I was in my 20s. But sometimes I think, was it fearlessness or was it just dumb? Like was I not being? But some of it was fearlessness, and I think that's the thing about being around young people is that you can see that and you can get some of that back. And it's always a balancing act of just doing this and just being creative. But I do think that is a blessing about being around young people in your field. You see what they do and you're like, oh, okay, I need to get some of that in me as well.
Mm.
I used to be like that in that
Yeah.
aspect. I need to get that back. And I feel like, it's not a coincidence that you're seeing that. I feel like, a
Yeah.
higher power is always kind of leading you and telling you what you need to
Mm.
to be doing,
And it's funny that you should say that because for years I worked in healthcare. I've always worked in healthcare, day job wise, and I've recently taken a teaching position at university,
Great.
and so I'm definitely around younger people now more so than I've ever have been in a long time, and I genuinely feel like I've started to see that more. That like, oh, I remember when you were like that, and not always in a bad way, sometimes in a good way.
No.
Like, get some of that back, channel some of that.
Yeah, for
Like 20-something
sure.
year old you that would go and find somebody on the internet and say, hey, come join me on my podcast. Like I
Because it works. I mean, I see people and I'm like, man, that does work, or I need to stop, just different things that you see other people doing, like always, I've been around so long. Like I remember, having your comedy up on MySpace and stuff. So,
mm.
now TikTok is out and I see friends of mine that are my age on TikTok and I'm just like, God, come on, man. It looks bad you doing TikTok, man. But then a part of me is like, you should do that too. I mean, you should keep this
Yeah.
party going. Just keep it going, even though it's tiresome and it's another platform and another one's going to come after that. That's a part of the game, and you just have to feed the machine.
Indeed, indeed. Where do you get your sort of inspiration from? Because I mean, not just for comedy, but also for your writing. Does it just come from real life? Do you like?
Everywhere. Yeah. I mean, you could just grocery shopping. Overhearing
Yeah.
people talking at the grocery
Sorry.
store just I mean, really anything. I've turned stuff from just the most random things into comedy that people laugh at, from tragedy to yeah, anything. I feel like you always have to be open for stuff,
Mm.
and just be, if you're a creative, I try to look at the world as the world is constantly telling me stories to be told and to understand that I mean, not to get corny, but understand that you're like a vessel for like you're like a bowl, and the world is just pouring new stories in your bowl, and it's up for you to choose what stories you want to tell and to cultivate those stories in ways to show them. But it's tons of stories every day, everywhere around you, and it's up to you to understand those are signs. So it's like, don't get mad. Like if somebody got you mad, write that stuff down. Write down
Yeah.
write that down because there's something in that. If it affects you
Yeah.
that much, or if something makes you sad, write that down. Or something makes you happy. It's just so many stories out there.
It's so true. And I always say that like blogging made me a much better person to be around, because that would happen. Like I would have a crap day, and I'd be like, "This is gonna make a really good blog."
Yeah.
Like, and that in itself I would just, like a funny story. I used to, before I started blogging, I used to write email. Like if I ever traveled, I do these like just little email updates to my friends. And one year, I was doing this voluntary project in Tanzania, and I was taking this tiny plane from like one town to another, and my luggage was nowhere to be seen.
Oh.
And I was so mad. And then in my mind, I made up this whole thing about like, there's a lion down there wearing my jeans, or whatever. And then it just like it, even writing the email made me feel better about the fact that I was like out in the middle of nowhere and I had no luggage. And so I've always felt like the act of creating those stories or recreating them into something else, to me sometimes even transforms how I feel. So yeah, I could definitely see how that inspiration.
How long were you in Tanzania for?
I was there for about 4 months.
Whoa!
Yeah,
That's great.
Down there. It was a good experience, and
yeah, I love it. I've been there before. It's beautiful.
Isn't it? It
so
is
great.
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it's great. How long were you there for?
Oh, probably a week and a half. Nowhere near as long as I would love 4 months. Yeah.
Don't rule it out.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
That's all I will say. I feel like this is the one of the benefits of the whole technological, and I feel like COVID's almost like pushed it even further along. Is that if you're lucky, you could work from somewhere else for a few weeks if you wanted.
Yeah,
so yeah,
that's the goal right now.
Rule it out.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you're able to achieve it. Last but not least, what type of things do you like to watch? Oh, before I ask you that, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Can you watch yourself? Like I know. Do you like to watch yourself? Like, do you watch it in like a not critical, in like a way of like, I could do this better, like critiquing yourself, or? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, stand up wise, that's the only way I'm watching myself is if I do a show and I happen to tape it or somebody else tapes it, and it's like, to keep your followers, you got to keep putting your stuff out there on Instagram and stuff. So I'm watching it, but I'm also like, oh man, you're looking down too much, Greg. Are you not?
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm just critiquing myself. I'm not looking down because I'm nervous. I'm just, it's like, stay in the moment. You're thinking about a joke more than feeling a joke. Just I'm constantly critiquing myself. With my acting, though, I can let go and just watch myself act. I'm still critiquing myself a little bit, but I can actually let go and just watch it. But yeah.
And what about the stuff that you write?
Oh, that's always hard because I'm such like, I like writing, and I like writing sketches, and I'm trying to write a book, and that's so hard because I feel I guess I'm hard on myself. So sometimes I'm like, oh, you just look at this, man. You're so dumb. Or like, this doesn't. Oh man, this isn't real. You're not a writer. You're not a writer. You're just a TV writer or a comic writer. You big dummy. So like.
So I'm gonna have to give you my finger.
Please,
thank you. Listen. Seriously, I'll tell you something that, because as I mentioned earlier, I've written a couple of books, and finishing that first one was mind blowing to me, because I realized, first of all, that voice, it's there, okay, and you kind of just have to. I don't want to say ignore it, but like you kind of just have to allow it to be there, but don't allow it to stop you from writing, because you are a writer. That's not even a question to me.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that I think, and it's it's something that you almost have to practice doing. You kind of like what I found worked for me was I would like the same way how you said you would watch yourself sometimes and you'd critique, but when you're on the stage, you can kind of let go and just be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of have to be able to practice that as a writer and have times when you know you're critiquing your work and have other times when you're just allowing yourself to kind of like let go and write and not feel that judgment or whatever it is that's coming over you. So I would say channel your performer, performer, and see if you can bring a bit of that to your writing.
No, that's great advice. I mean, how do you feel like when you feel like you're writing, but you haven't read many books in the style of the way you're writing? Like sometimes I write, like I'm in the process of writing something and I'm writing it very much like I do stand up, where I'm kind of talking to myself while writing. And it's, I don't know, it just feels kind of weird. I'm liking it because I feel like it's me, and I feel like the people that will read it will understand me more. But I don't know. Just as somebody that's written so many books, how do you feel about that?
First of all, I should tell you, I'm pretty sure that there are books out there like that, and I feel like I've read at least one, and I'm sure there are more. So I want to tell you that to encourage you to keep on going.
Okay.
Definitely. And the second thing is, I feel like, and I by the time this comes out, this blog post is going to be super old, but I published it last week, so it's really top of mind. And it's about like just not thinking about what it needs to be while you're creating it, I guess is probably the best way to say it, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, I don't know what your plans are for your book.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if you're planning to self-publish it yourself. There's a lot of self-publishing going on these days. I don't know if you're
probably
get an agent and whatever, and things like that. But I always remind people, because I do some editing as well, and I always remind people, like, the book that you read, the book, you know, when you pick a book up in a bookstore and you read that book, that is not the book that the person wrote when they wrote that first draft. So I would say, don't even worry about it. Just write it exactly how you want to write it. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right? And then that's your first draft. And then when you decide what you're going to do with it, it'll be a lot easier to sort of decide. And, you know, this is, you know, there are a lot of people are have different advice. Some people are like, you know, think about your audience or whatever. I'm like, I don't know how you find writing, whether it's TV, whether it's stand-up, whatever, but like, I can't think about anybody when I'm writing. I have to just think like, I want to get this thing out. I want to get it on paper. When I've done, let me then think about who it's for and what, you know, like how should I package it, right? It's almost like the difference between writing something and then packaging it off into whatever it is. So I think I would say just write. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry if you've never seen something like that before. Like I said, I have seen stuff like that, so I wouldn't worry about it. But even if you hadn't, just finish it and then, you know, see what happens. See what happens next. You might be surprised.
Yeah. All right. These are okay. Great. All right. I'll push it. Thank you, Sophia.
No problem at all. So now, what type of things do you like to read? Because that's normally the last question I ask people. So
man,
read or watch or take in?
Well, I mean, reading wise, I really, you know, like my wife reads a lot of books. She's really book heavy. You know, she's reading this Zora Neale Hurston book right now on her biography. But I mean, she just eats books, and I'm not the same. Like I'll read a book, but I'm so, I guess I have this like mind of like I love articles. I love blog posts. I love angry Yelp reviews. I love I do. I love feelings. I love people really mad about something or really happy about something, and I just love to read all those intense emotions and feelings related to something that's so frivolous, you know. And I read all of that, from political to somebody discovering a new bag of chips to, like, to anything. It's just it kind of excites me. And
Yeah.
watching wise, I mean, with YouTube, my algorithm is crazy. I watch so much different stuff.
I think my YouTube algorithm is so confused as well. They're like, today she was watching somebody make bread, and tomorrow she watched this guy. There's this guy I love who makes this. He like does little sketches. I love him. And then the next day I'm watching. Like I'm pretty sure the algorithm's like, who is this chick?
I'm right there with you. I think I used to joke people when I go to their houses, and like, people have a bookshelf. And it's like, I don't think you should let people see your bookshelf, because that says so much about you. And I'm so judgmental. I would go to people's houses and I'm like, look at that. What? Oh man, hey man, you need to hide this book. Nobody needs to. Why you got this book out here? You need. But I also think that's the YouTube algorithm too. It's like, hey man, don't let people see what you've been watching. You need to. Yeah. So I think it's hilarious.
YouTube. I know your YouTube algorithm is like your new bookshelf.
It is. It really is. That's a joke, Sophia. That's a good joke. I'm gonna try out.
Yeah. I'm gonna take credit for it.
You should. As you should. Yeah. Yep. As you should.
Oh well, thank you so much for joining me. I had a really good conversation. Really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to reading your book.
Oh, thank you, Sophia.
This is out in the world now. People are looking for Greg's book. So,
oh man, I can't wait. Thank you for the encouragement too. I really appreciate it. And I'm gonna read that. Can you? Well, I'll just find the link to your.
I tell you what,
blog.
I'm gonna drop the link for the blog post in the show notes, but I'll also send it to you as soon as we get off the call, Greg. And and just like do not, don't stop. I think one of the things that I think really shocked me when I first finished a book was to read the truth, which is that the only difference between a person who's written a book and a person who hasn't is the person who wrote the book did not stop.
Yeah. Wow. Wise words.
Right. And you know what it's like to not stop, because you've obviously been doing this for quite a long time. So that's what I'm saying. Take it from that part of your life, bring it into your writing. And I know that in a year's time, I'll be reading your book and being like, oh yeah, this is a good one.
Sophia, also, one more thing. There's a famous Barbadian did I say that right? Is it Barbadian or
you did say it right?
Barbadian artist by the name of Sheena Rose. I don't know if you know Sheena.
Listen,
you've heard of Sheena? Okay.
I'm going to tell you something. The office that I worked in right up until about 4 months ago, Sheena Rose worked upstairs.
Oh wow, that's awesome! I love Sheena.
She's brilliant. Oh, I love that you said that. She is.
Yeah, I love Sheena. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
She is a brilliant artist. I secretly, like, as I told you before, like when this podcast started, it was writers, but like the idea kind of expanded because I feel like we tell stories through so many different mediums, that creativity medium. So like I'm gonna see if I can get her on the podcast. Oh,
you better hit up Sheena. Oh, she'll do it for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
I love that. I love that you know her.
Oh yeah, she's one of my favorites actually. I love Sheena. Yeah, I'm so happy for her too. Every time she gets something new, and I think she was back in Barbados, and she was doing a lot of stuff recently. But yeah, all right.
Yeah, she's brilliant. Like I said, she used to be upstairs in the building I was working in, and we have some of her. I say have, but it's had because I don't work there anymore. But we had some of her art, like in the operatory. So she's brilliant. I love her.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
There we go. Well, thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate it. And I hope that, looking forward to reading that book soon. And I hope everyone comes back and joins me for another episode. So, folks, I will catch you on the next episode. Ciao. Thank you for joining us today. You can find out more about our guests in the notes below, and don't forget to hit subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss new episodes when they drop. And if this has inspired you to get your own writing project into the world, click on my website below and learn how you can work with me as a writing coach or an editor. Until next time, I send you big love from a small island.